If you've ever dreamt that you weren't going to graduate from college, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Hello everyone, Hammerby here today, and today's video we're going to be talking about my 2 years of gun ownership. And so I was thinking about this the other day, how at the end of May it's going to be 2 years since I purchased my first ever firearm, which just so happens to be my Rock Island 1911. All guns next to me are currently unloaded. I have changed out some things on my Rock Island 1911, but overall it's still the same gun. I pretty much have my first 3 firearms I ever purchased. I have my 1911, which was my first firearm, my Smith & Wesson MP15, second firearm I ever purchased, and my Springfield XD9, which is the third firearm I ever purchased. And so, to cut straight to the point, it's been a lot of fun these past 2 years. I mean, shooting guns is always fun, and anyone that doesn't think so, well, they're wrong. There was a point where I was pretty much shooting guns like every weekend, sometimes both Saturday and Sunday. I'd head out and just go and shooting. I don't shoot as often now, mainly because I'm just sometimes busy doing other things, but I do try to head out at least twice a month to go shooting. It's just a lot of fun. Probably one of my favorite things about shooting is probably shooting with other people. As in, you've seen in my videos, sometimes my cousin or my friend, they will be in the videos, and it's just, whenever we get together, it's just a lot of fun, you know, just shooting steel, paper, or sometimes just shooting like random things, whether that be one of my favorites, whether it be frozen turkeys or frozen chickens, or also shooting fruit as well, whether it be melons, watermelons, or pineapples. It's just fun to see what different calibers do to different objects, you know, just bro science, I guess you could call it. So overall, shooting guns is a lot of fun. Probably another thing that I really enjoy about guns is probably shooting different types of guns. As you can see, I have a small selection right here. So, you know, I shot 1911s, Glocks, CZs, shot Smith & Wesson firearm, ARs, Zostavas, Rugers, HKs, you know, shotguns, Mossberg, Remington, Benelli, just overall many different types of firearms. And I feel like one of the good things about the firearms community is that there are so many guns and they come in so many different calibers. There is definitely going to be something out there for you, whether you want something for home defense, a range toy, or just whatever else you might be wanting to get into. There's definitely going to be something out there for you. So overall, just shooting guns is a lot of fun, whether it's sometimes it's just by yourself, you know, just practicing drills, trying to have fun, seeing how far you can make a shot with the handgun, or just doing so many kind of specific training. Overall, just shooting guns has been a lot of fun for me, and there have been some things I've learned on this journey as well. Oh, by the way, guys, sorry for the wind noise. It's kind of windy today. So some of the things I've learned so far, I have a little list on my phone, so if you see me looking down. To start off, ear pro and eye pro are very, and I mean very important. The last thing you want is tinnitus or to lose an eye. Sadly, I have a bit of tinnitus in my right ear. Thankfully, it's not too bothersome, but you know, obviously, it's better if you try to protect your ears. I'd say when it comes to larger calibers, definitely use the little small in-ear earplugs. Those will definitely help protect your ears. If you're at an indoor range, then definitely also use the in-ear ones as well, because it just echoes really loud inside the indoor ones. So want to protect yourself. Eye pro, very important as well. Recently, I'd say about 2 weeks ago, I was shooting my AK and I was shooting steel, and there was a bit of one of the bullets, you know, it hit the steel, and then a little piece of the shrapnel actually happened to hit me in the cheek. I was actually very surprised that happened. You know, at first I was like, dang. Then I felt a little bit of blood. It wasn't nothing too crazy, but at the end of the day, had that little piece of metal gone towards my eye, one of the things about the eye, it's very sensitive. I probably would have been blind. So if I would have gone straight towards my eye and I didn't have my safety glasses, it would have been a whole different story. So ear and eye pro are very important. Don't think, oh, I'm only going to shoot it once. It only takes once for you to have some type of accident. So very important. I suggest when shooting handguns, you can't get away with just over the ear headphones, but overall I suggest earplugs when shooting larger caliber guns. Always have safety glasses on, and if you want, probably an added one, maybe wear gloves just so you don't get too much lead on your hands, or maybe if something happens, you know, your hands don't get as badly hurt. Another thing I've learned so far, and this is probably very important, don't expect to get good with guns right away. I know we see videos of people like PewView, Honest Outlaw, or just Jerry Mitchell. Like we see guys like that, and we're like, I want to get like that right away. These are people that have been shooting guns for ever. Like they do not just shoot once a week. They probably shoot like multiple days a week, and it's years and years of training and discipline. I say probably the discipline is probably the thing that's gonna. When it comes to anything, whether it be shooting handguns, working out, building some sort of skill, the discipline is probably going to be the hardest thing to have, just because, you know, sometimes you're going to not see very much progress, and whether it be, in this case, you're shooting, sometimes it's only going to be minuscule amounts, but if you compare it to your start, that's when you notice. So just try to have patience. You're not going to get good right away. I'm not saying there aren't people that are just, you know, they pick up a handgun, a firearm, and they're better than other people who have been training for a lot longer, but overall you are going to need to have patience, because at the end of the day it is a skill and you do need to work on it. For example, me, one of the biggest, for most new firearm shooters, is one of the things that happens is they tend to, you know, we tend to flinch. For example, they know the gun, when you fire, it's going to go up. And so as soon as they press the trigger, they kind of, you know, they pull it down just to try and stop the recoil from for like the muzzle flip. And sometimes what happens with that is that when you shoot groups, you'll notice that you shoot low and left. If you're a left-handed shooter, it might be low and right. That does still tend to happen to me, and you know, it kind of takes a little bit of warm-up to get better. So try not to be discouraged, but just try to get better at it, and know that just like everything, it takes time to get better. Another important thing about firearms, I'd say as well, is do your own research when it comes to buying guns. There's a lot of information out there on the internet. There is also a lot of information that tends to be just BS. Not saying that all information, but everybody's experiences are different. For example, probably the best example, my 1911, a lot of people had good things to say about the Rock Island 1911. I, however, had a very different experience. The difference is I do not bash on the entire company. I'll be like, oh, you know, Rock Islands, they're not that good just because I had bad experience. Maybe I just got a lemon. So try to do your own research, because just because you see my video saying where I didn't have a good experience doesn't mean it's an end all be all. Try to watch multiple videos, go on multiple sites, forums, see what people are overall saying about a firearm when it comes, because at the end of the day, you know, guns aren't cheap. With the way the economy is right now, you got to hold on to your money as best as possible. So you want to make the best purchase possible for your money's worth. And so just do research. It doesn't have to be just firearms. It could also be like on optics, furniture, whether that be handguards, stocks, muzzle devices, anything for your gun. Sometimes they could even be things like just chest rigs, plate carriers. Just do your own research, see what people have to say, and overall at the end of the day, you're still going to have your own experience with whatever product you choose to buy. So just try to do as much research as you can. That way you get your money's worth at the end of the day. Another thing that I have experienced is that you're going to meet a lot of different types of people in the firearms community. You know, usually it's you go to your big box stores like the Cabela's, the Shields, the Bass Pro, or you go to your local gun store. You're going to be meeting all different types of people there. And one of the things about that is that you tend to hear other people's opinions or experiences with guns. And that's usually a pretty good thing, because if you ever think about purchasing a gun, someone could be like, oh, well, don't buy the SIG P320 because of all these issues. People shoot themselves in the foot, but that type of experience, and that might stray you away from buying the gun. So that's money you saved. Or they could be like, oh, I was using this optic and I really enjoyed it because I really liked the magnification, it had clear glass, blah, blah, blah. Overall, everybody I've met in the firearms community has been very welcoming and friendly. Not to say that everyone's like that. There are people out there that can be kind of rude, but just know that you're going to be meeting different types of people and it's going to be a different experience. So try to make the best of it. And if you're not the most social person, well, maybe you might become social. Me, myself, I don't really interact with people, but when it comes to talking about guns, that's just, I'm kind of like extroverted for that because it's a hobby I enjoy, so it might take you out of your shell. Another thing I have learned in the firearms community, which is something I experienced, is don't buy too many guns. Within the first year of owning guns, I wouldn't say the first year, but the first like 6.5 months of owning guns, I purchased 5 guns. I purchased these 3 guns. I purchased a Remington 870 shotgun, and I purchased a CZ75. Now you might be asking yourself, why would you buy so many guns at once, or what's wrong with that? Well, for one, I have FOD, which is firearm obsession disorder, which is a terminal illness. Joking, but one of the problems when you buy too many guns is that you never get good with one platform. I'm not saying you can't, but for example, I bought my 1911, then a month and a half later I bought my AR. A month and a half after that I bought a Springfield XD9. About 2 months later I bought a Remington, and then 2.5 months later I bought a CZ. That's 5 guns within a year. That wouldn't be a problem if I had many years of experience. However, for it being the first 6 months, or just it could be the first year in general, when you're buying guns constantly, you never really are able to get good with one platform, because as soon as you're finally starting to even learn the platform, now I'm not even saying get good, but just learn the platform, you're already switching. For example, I went from my 1911 to my AR, which is very different, and obviously it's not going to be the same, but let's take for example after that, after my AR I bought a Springfield. So I wasn't even good with my 1911 and I had already introduced another handgun. Don't buy multiple handguns within a year if you're starting off. Don't buy multiple ARs within a year, or rifles in general, because you don't want to buy like an AR and then afterwards you buy an AK or you buy a bullpup. You know, you're not going to get good with any of them. So try to have a certain platform within a year before swapping it out. And within that year, you might see that maybe, hey, I don't really want anything else because I really love this, or I like this gun, but maybe I want to try something else out. So don't buy too many things. Get good with what you have, and then after a year, decide that, hey, I want to try something new. Another thing I've learned is that this is going to be more of the harder hitting subjects, I guess, especially with the way the economy is. If you're not good at budgeting, getting into firearms is going to be very expensive. I myself do not make a lot of money. I make, I could get paid better, which I hope to. But if you don't know how to budget, this hobby is going to take up a lot of your money. And I say that because I used to be into cars, and as you all know, cars are expensive. You know, you do a couple $1,000s of a down payment, you pay a couple $100 with the monthly payment, the insurance, the gas. You expect having a car and car ownership to be expensive. It's not really the same with guns. Like for example, you buy this gun for like $400, $500. That's it. You know that you're gonna have to buy ammo, and a box of ammo is like what, $30? Let's just say $30. It's like, oh, $30 is nothing to, like, let's say a $400 car payment. Well, the thing I've noticed in life in general is that, and what I've spoken with other people, is the little purchases are what add up. You buy an $8 coffee every day, you buy that 5 days a week, that's $40. Granted, like I say, it's not the same as a couple $100 car payment, but it does add up. For example, I'm going to buy 2 boxes of ammo, that's $40, $50. And then a couple days later, oh, let me buy another $40, $50 of ammo. You got about $80 to $100 I spend in a week. And it just really adds up. So back in late March, I went to Shields and I purchased like $1,000 just to have ammo and magazines because you always got to stock up on that thing on those stuff. I remember I was at the register and the bill had already racked up to $500, and we were barely halfway. So I'm just seeing it hit 500, 600, 700, 800, and I'm just like, dang. Granted, I don't spend $1,000 all the time, but it does really add up. And so, if you're not good at budgeting, you're gonna have a lot of trouble because that is something I went through. Probably like about a year ago, where I was noticing I was spending a lot, and my bank account is staying right where it's at, just because I was maybe buying a new gun, or just buying a bunch of ammo, or sometimes just buying things to shoot at the range. It really begins to add up. So try to be smart with your money. I know times are tough, especially right now. So maybe going out and buying another gun or buying another 1,000 rounds of ammo might not be the best choice. But when you do finally decide to spend your money, try to get the most out of it. And so pretty much everything I've talked about so far has been my experience over the past 2 years of being into firearms. Now I'm not saying you're going to be going through the same things I have, but there are some things you can look out for, such as, just managing your money so you get your money's worth for whatever you decide to purchase. Not getting into different platforms right away until you really get good with one specific thing, and then deciding, hey, you want to try something new. Or just having the discipline to know that you're not going to be good right away with whatever gun you're using, and that if you keep working hard at it, you will inevitably get better at it. And so overall, I say that getting into guns has been a pretty fun journey for me, and I'm looking forward to the future of whatever experiences or fun I might have. And if you are deciding, if you are on the fence about whether or not to get into guns, just go to your local gun range, rent a gun, or if you know someone that has a gun, maybe ask to go shooting with them, because you might enjoy it just as I have. So with that, I say thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time. Later.